Hi everyone, I'm coming to you from Lincoln, Nebraska this time, although it seems more like Venice, Italy, because we got hit with a very large storm a couple days ago, and the whole place is flooded so much so that a lot of the streets are covered with rain, and people are even taking their boats out on their canoes out on the streets and, sailing down that way. We need gondolas now. I'm coming to you from one of the only basements that was not flooded. Somehow we escaped that. There were a lot of tornadoes. I was inside the basement, or inside of the bathroom, hiding for the first time since I was a kid, so it's been rather interesting. Anyway, I'm actually not ready for my review of the Ables quite yet. I'm about a third of the way through, but since I'm in this town at this point, and where I do a lot of my nonfiction writing, a lot of my nonfiction research, certainly for the last 3 books, I thought I'd sort of show you around and sort of tell you a little bit about what I do in terms of researching for my books. But anyway, first a quick tour of the library that we have here. My family's always had this idea of a book worth reading is a book worth owning, and you can see it's kind of led to an addiction. We have kind of a cool collection of classics and philosophers, original work of Robert E. Lee, which I didn't even realize until we had it for a while. Encyclopedia Britannica, which is kind of useless now, but cool to have as a collector's item. Some more books over there, and then my writing session, or writing, place. At the moment, I don't really have any research in there. It's just a copy of Pro Bono that is going to John Waters, and my sustenance whenever I'm in town of Amigos. But yeah, here's where I keep a lot of my, usually keep a lot of my research. This particular time, since I'm not actually writing, I mostly have had materials for going on my promotional tour. These are, of course, Two Gun and Great Heist, and then some books that I got from a couple people. I'll be doing reviews on them. If any of you read Pro Bono, this was the microfilm of the trials, a tape from a documentary that was done on it, a couple of books from Pro Bono. Then a lot of the material for the Great Heist is in there. And yeah, Two Gun material is actually in Burbank because I was still working on that. But we also had, some more books, of course, you need. Back there's where I sleep. More books, more books. And, occasionally that I would use those because, let's say that I would come upon something where it was like, oh, I need a little bit more, information on this or that. And I'd remember if my dad had it in his library. In fact, we have more books upstairs, so I could go through some of those. Of course, it's not every single time. In fact, most of the research was with other materials. But, like, for instance, with the Two Gun Heart, I needed to fill in a little bit of information about General Pershing. I knew he had a book on General Pershing, so I, came out here, found one of those, etc. That's, in fact, that's the way that I go through, through nonfiction books. Very different from the way I write fiction books. To real quick just summarize fiction books, I'm actually going to do a whole special on either of those, but just as a quick note, because it's in my view that the reason why the couch is sort of disheveled like that, the night that the gigantic storm took place, I had other things I was supposed to do, but I just went, you know what, this is a good night to kind of get in the mood for some writing. It was storming out, there was lightning, thunder, tornadoes. I came out of the bathroom where I was hiding when the tornado sirens went off, and I went, this is the perfect night to come up with something. So I didn't write anything. I didn't sit down and write, but it was, I oftentimes say the difference between writing nonfiction and fiction is like this. Nonfiction is like this. You're reading your book, or you're getting a text. And so, when I was writing fiction, when I was coming up with the latest Relic Worlds short story, which is going to be about a ghost ship, I just laid back, and there was the thunder outside, the rain, and all that, and just helped me get in the mood, and I let my mind relax, and I knew what the story was, and I just kind of generated it. Once I had it, I went and I wrote it down. For nonfiction, what I do is I just generally figure out what the story is. I do some interviews, get some general information, read up on it, just get the overall view of what the story is without going into chapters. And as I do, I make folders in my computer, and each one has a different part of the topic. So if, like, Two Gun Heart, there'd be his BIA days, and then there'd be his Prohibition days, and then there'd be stuff about Al at this particular time, and then, et cetera, et cetera. The bank robbery would be a folder. And I just do that to organize my notes as I go through them, and by the time I'm done getting all these notes and just grabbing them and putting them in there, I've got several chapters, because the folders wind up becoming the chapters. That's sort of generally how I create those chapters, and I end up when I write a certain chapter, I can just focus on that one chapter and all the information that's in that folder and get all that. Rather than being flooded with all the information, I can just focus on that one folder and all the information in there, and that becomes a chapter. Now, sometimes that alters, but that's the general way that I at least start to do it. Anyway, so that's me here in Lincoln. That's that's basically my life when I'm here. I live in this basement. Next time you see me, I'll be in Burbank. I'll probably be reviewing the Ables at that point. I'll give you a preview. It's neat. It's a fun book. So that being said, read more independent books, and I will see you in a few weeks.